Over the past few years, we've seen a huge rise in the amount of young people who are vaping. It's now called an epidemic by our Surgeon General.
A lot of kids think that it's safe because they don't know, because there aren't stats out there that's showing that it's not.
It's just not worth it. You shouldn't waste your time doing it. It's just not worth it.
This is a big medical issue, and it will affect them literally for the rest of their lives.
This is definitely a significant problem in our community, in our schools, that parents, school board, staff, our whole community needs to come together to try and solve this problem.
A lot of the students today that choose to use it are really using based on the fact that they think they're making a healthy choice amongst bad choices.
I just think with all the products involved in vaping, I mean, it's toxic.
Vaping is the inhalation of this chemical, this juice that they load into the device. And most of the juice contains nicotine, which is obviously the addictive side of the vaping.
A lot of them are fruit flavored, candy flavored. Just the other day I walked by a gentleman who I think was probably in his 50s, and I could tell he had just vaped because he smelled like cotton candy.
They look like USB drives, some just look like little teardrops. Some look like larger phone chargers, so it's very difficult for teachers, for parents to detect. So really, the companies are getting very savvy on how they're marketing to teens.
We're seeing a lot of students even looking at e-cigarettes and vaping as not the same as a regular cigarette or tobacco violation or other chemical violation, but it absolutely is by our policy and by our school rules. So we're seeing it as a serious problem.
Now, the biggest challenge with e-cigarettes is it's not the vapor or it's the other contents of it, although they can have their own separate medical issues over time. The biggest issue has to do with the nicotine, and this is a product that's derived directly from tobacco plants. What we have is that nicotine is a natural product of the brain. So you have in the brain nicotinic receptors, and it's something that you don't have to create something new. The brain can recognize this right away. It has receptors for nicotine, and what it does is that it stimulates nicotine receptors. And not only does it stimulate them, but it also recruits new ones. So what you do is you create increased number of nicotinic receptors that the brain wants to be satisfied.
What we know is that adolescents who use nicotine while their brains are still growing can have some lifelong brain development issues in terms of learning, memory, and attention. So those are all pretty important brain functions, and we're really concerned about young people not realizing that they're damaging their brains through vaping.
The main concern is that the nicotine level is so high in these products, and research is pointing out that it can negatively impact a child's concentration, memory, and motivation, which all has a negative impact on a child's ability to learn in school.
Almost every activity in sport we have, obviously lung capacity and the ability to run and be active and healthy is very important. So any student that's using those chemicals, they're not going to be able to perform at their highest level. So it's just not healthy for developing kids.
With all the products involved in vaping, I mean, it's toxic to your enamel and to your gum tissue. It's absolutely toxic. They're exposing their mouth for, months at a time to the ingredients that are in this vaping product. It's hard to say what the damage is going to be, but it's going to be there. It's going to be obvious. Their enamel is going to be irreversibly weakened. It can create white spots on the teeth, brown spots on the teeth. Not only have you decreased blood flow to your tissue, but it also decreases your immune response. Those two things are what causes or can lead to gum disease, periodontal disease, and permanent gum recession. So once the gum has receded or gone away, it's never growing back.
In a way, e-cigarettes seem to be shutting down the lungs' immune systems and making them less able to fight off kind of those everyday harmful substances. One of the ways e-cigarettes hurt your heart is by changing your blood chemistry. It kind of tinkers with it in a way that hurts your heart and your blood vessels. A lot of the same cancer-causing and harmful chemicals that are in cigarettes are also in e-cigarettes. Formaldehyde heavy metals, which can hurt all aspects of your body, including lead. But that same lead is found in e-cigarettes, which of course can harm your entire body and especially brain development.
One of our concerns is that when students start using tobacco or nicotine at a younger age, there's a higher percentage that they will actually become addicted.
Some kids will acknowledge that, yes, I've noticed ever since I've used these products that I've had trouble, I've got shortness of breath and different things like that. I have had kids come to me and say, I'm really tired of this, I want to quit.
They could just get addicted and it'll be a lot harder to stop, and like just the physical changes, and like if you look up, there's some studies that the nicotine and other chemicals can cause depression and anxiety and like the withdrawals if like you're trying to quit.
Unfortunately, sometimes people perceive nicotine as a very positive thing in terms of how it makes them feel. And so there will be this perception that I can perform better in sports. But over time, these other things that are in e-cigarettes, just as they were in standard cigarettes, will have an effect on their lung tissue over time.
The issues are bigger than anybody realizes, including myself. Before starting here at the school, I didn't realize that the vaping was such an issue at this age group. But since coming here, it certainly has opened my eyes to the problem.
It's not worth it. It's not worth, one, getting a ticket and getting that on your record. Two, it's just not worth the health benefit, like the health disadvantages to it. It's not worth that. And it's really just, it doesn't make you cool. It doesn't make you anything. It just, if anything, just don't do it.
So the problem we're seeing is, number one, the prevalence of it. I'm shocked at how many kids are getting caught with them. Compared to last year, our numbers have increased dramatically as far as the number of reports and people and kids that are getting caught with them.
I've seen it in the bathrooms and sometimes even in classes. Kids will, have the vape up their sleeves and they'll suck it in and then blow it even in their sleeves or like down their shirt, trying to be as discreet as possible. And just, you go into the bathroom and there's just a group of kids in there and they'll try to be, looking around and see if anybody's gonna come in the door, and then they'll quick jump into a stall and hit a quick vape real quick.
More importantly, I think the biggest way that it's affecting people is that just like any other drugs, alcohol, or tobacco, there's state high school league consequences that go along with the use of these things. And we see students not only vaping in school, but also with the paraphernalia that goes along with it. And when they get caught, they unfortunately get a ticket from the police department, and then the state high school league consequence that goes along with it is they're losing 25% of their season the first time they're caught. After that, they lose 50% of their season, and then from there a calendar year. And so it's dangerous on many levels, and it's super unfortunate when you're a team participant in a team sport, for example. Your teammates are counting on you being there, and when you're making decisions like this that jeopardize that, it's unfortunate not only to you yourself, but also to your team members. The truth is, I think, one big thing that I think parents can share the truth, that this is not just a harmless, vapor. And even if they choose to buy something that can sell itself and truly market itself as a harmful vapor, I think the parents need to talk about the gateway piece of this, that it's step number one that can continue to get a little bit more. Maybe now we add the nicotine in, maybe now we're, vaping the marijuana.
And so I think a great thing that we can do is talk to the young people in our lives about what addiction to vaping means. So instead of just saying, oh, there's nicotine and it's addictive, try talking with them and saying, the nicotine in e-cigarettes really changes the way your brain functions. And when you become addicted to it, it means that it's extremely hard to quit, and you may vape longer than you want to.
So it's going to be a matter of understanding that they may want to stop. They won't necessarily admit that, but they may want to stop, but it's going to be hard for them to stop if they've been using them for a while. So for parents to have a little compassion around that addiction cessation idea, it's a little bit different than just saying don't use it.
How we reduce the problem is, part of it's going to be consequences for the kids when they get caught. Part of that, I believe, has got to be parents getting involved and asking the questions. If they don't think their kids are doing it or their kids' friends are doing it, they need to have these conversations with their kids about it.
I think it's always a good idea to talk to your kids early and talk to them often about, I hear that there's this trend with vaping and going on in the schools. What do you think about that? And then also, it's our responsibility as parents. You can search their room, search their backpack, and look for those products.
Educating their son or daughter that, this is a drug, it is a harmful effect to you. what the effects are to you, we don't know yet, and that's the scary part of them.
If a parent suspects their student is using, or if they actually catch them using, they can have their student referred to our chemical health counselor, speak to their academic dean, and they'll find all kinds of community resources in hopefully putting a stop to that use.
Oh yeah, I'm certain there's other students like me and my buddies that are trying to get the word out at least to other students and even parents of the harm that e-cigs can do. That's just nasty. Like, why would you put that in your body?
I've tried it once, didn't like it, and I was like, yeah, no. After that, I was like, my dad was a smoker, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me.
It really is a marketing ploy by the tobacco companies to get these children hooked and hooked early. And when you look at how that impacts our community, how it impacts our nation in regards to health issues down the road, our concern is that their brains are still developing. And when you're ingesting these chemicals, it can have harmful effects in regards to their learning development.
Their friends are using it, it seems safe, it makes them kind of feel good. And so it's one of those things where they kind of literally fall into this not knowing what they're really in for.
We have an amazing group of student athletes that are in the school, and students as a whole. Of course, as an activities director, I focus on the student athletes or our student activities, participants and so on. We've got a lot of people that are making some really, really wise decisions and smart decisions and staying away from these things and encouraging others to stay away from it as well. We just want to make sure that that's 100% across the board, not just the majority.